They say he's under contract for a ridiculous amount of money. He's yours. Green Bay is stuck with him. They are stuck with him. And there's nothing they can do with that. I mean, maybe they can find a trade partner. I don't know. But $59 million.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today, sitting in for my tag team partner, Coach Francis, is our favorite official and administrator, Robert Abney, is joining us for a guest host gig. Robert, how are you doing, buddy?
As always, sir, I am living the dream. Life is good, man.
I'm glad to hear that. And also, Captain for Life and one of the producers of the forthcoming documentary tentatively titled Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success, Will Cotton. Will, how are you, sir?
Doing great.
Yes. We're going to get you a production credit on this. So on today's Top Shelf Tuesday edition, we're going to have the Eric Bieniemy talk again. Now that he's had the press conference, we can actually dig into it. And we've got two great opinions coming forth with this. We're also going to talk about off-season quarterback news. And yes, Aaron Rodgers is part of the conversation, and he's still getting on my nerves. We'll see if he's getting on everybody else's nerves. And we're also going to get ready for the combine. But first, gentlemen, Eric Bieniemy. New Washington Commanders offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy made it very clear during his opening news conference that he is not focused on using this position to land a head coaching job. Washington hired Bieniemy to rejuvenate an offense that has struggled in Ron Rivera's first 3 seasons. Bieniemy was a part of 2 Super Bowl championships during his 5 seasons as Kansas City's offensive coordinator. Also, during that time, he interviewed with 15 different teams for head coaching positions. In Washington, he'll have full control over the offense, something he did not have in Kansas City, where Andy Reid, the head coach, was the primary play caller. And I do want to give you some quotes, just a quote or two from the press conference before we jump into it. Being a head coach right now is not in my thought process. What I am focused on is being the best coach today. Everything else will take care of itself. I live in the moment. Right now, my feet are planted here. Will, I'd like for you to jump into this first. What are your thoughts on Bieniemy getting that job and his whole situation?
Well, it's kind of, I think I'll commend the Commanders by going out and hiring at least a hot OC. I mean, the guy won the Super Bowl. He's been to 4 of them, I think, or 3 of them. 3. Yeah, he's been to 3, and he won 2. So given the chance that obviously, I mean, is well overdue that he should have been getting this chance. I think it's kind of fluid for the Commanders. They're not really who's going to be the owners, what's going to happen. Ron Rivera is also in the last end of his year of his contract. There's a lot of pieces up in air. But he's saying all the right things. Anything that anybody gets hired or they get a new job, it's, hey, I love it. I want to work with you. I want to be with this person, but we'll see. But there's a lot of things up in the air, especially with the sale. Who's going to buy it, how they're going to move forward, how they're going to even want to keep Bieniemy. There's just a lot of questions. But, hey, commend on the Commanders for trying to get better, making a better OC. They're already putting them out. They're having players talk to them. All on the internet, shaking hands and meeting video stuff. So, business as usual, but, we got to see how things find this foundation and how it solidifies before we can really make a decision or what's going on with him.
All right. Robert, as our resident administrator, you can read through some of the mishmash in terms of the press conference. What are your initial thoughts on the hire and Bieniemy's first presidential type moment?
So a couple things. I mean, first of all, I think that, the 15 interviews, I mean, if you just listening to the guy, he's well-spoken. The Rooney Rule, where you have to interview minorities. I mean, that clearly he has gotten a lot of interviews where he was not in consideration for a job.
Mhm.
And that's unfortunate because he's clearly well spoken. Everything that I've read about people who have played for him, aside from LaShawn McCoy, shady being shady, aside from that, everybody that they love him. And I think that the biggest takeaway for me from this whole thing is he took a chance on himself. He
Mhm.
said, you know what? I've been here. Clearly, this is not getting the result that I wanted. I have to do something different. So he decided that I'm going to go to Washington. I'm going to go into this new situation. And, and that's a big chance because, ain't no Patrick Mahomes living in DC, right? So he's going
Correct.
to have to figure out, okay, how am I going to score points with whoever I have in the building? What is that going to look like? And that's, I mean, and that's taking a big chance. And you have to give him, if nothing else, you have to give him credit for that. And because it sounds like to me that guys want to play for him. So if he's got guys who have any talent whatsoever, they're probably going to be okay.
Yeah, and on my end, and I talked about this a little bit with Mike last week. We already know the NFL is it's an old boys network. It's hard to get a gig. It's not fair. Okay. And the shadows are large. Andy Reid's shadow, literally and figuratively, is a large shadow. And he has the title. He has the say so. And Washington really, really has underperformed the last 3 years. So he has a chance. And if he gets them into the top 10, heck, if he gets them into the top 15 in some statistical categories, that's wonderful. And I think he's got a gem in Sam Howell. I really think this guy is good. And with proper structure, support, and accountability, I think Sam Howell's going to be pretty darn good. And they were last in their division. So they're going to get a favorable schedule again. And this is a great opportunity. And he only signed a 2-year deal. So if it really goes bad, he didn't have to keep that stink on him. He can say, we've got all kinds of problems here. So speaking of problems, Kansas City moved on quickly. I've lost interest in the Washington owners thing, fellas, so just skip the sheet. And the Chiefs stayed within the organization, and they promoted Matt Nagy into a spot replacing Eric Bieniemy. So Matt Nagy's 44. He was the Chiefs offensive coordinator on Andy Reid's staff in 2016 and 2017, their last 2 seasons with Alex Smith as starting quarterback. The Chiefs were 20th in the league in yards and 13th in scoring, but made a jump the next season to 5th and 6th. Nagy then left for 4 seasons to be the head coach of Chicago Bears, where he went 34 and 31. Nagy was fired by the Bears in 2021. He returned to the Chiefs last year as quarterback coach and senior offensive assistant. Before becoming the Chiefs offense coordinator the first time, he coached under Reid for 6 years, 3 in Philly, and 3 as quarterbacks coach in Kansas City. And this is the last piece before I get your thoughts on it. Nagy played quarterback at the University of Delaware, where Chiefs general manager Brett Veach was among his receivers. He also played the Arena Football League. So, Robert, I'm going to go to you first. That was a pretty quick move on from the Chiefs to go back to Nagy. Any thoughts on that, sir?
Well, if he was there previously, he has a relationship with Mahomes. Seems like you want to keep your guy happy. I would be shocked if they made that move without talking to Mahomes first. So probably had his blessing, and he's not calling the plays anyway, right? He's not calling the plays. He's not running the show. It's fine. My big issue with the whole thing really is that, okay, so let's say they wind up back in the Super Bowl again. who's going to be at the top of the list for people interviewing? Oh, well, Nagy has head coaching experience. Well, how'd that go the first time when he didn't have a Patrick Mahomes, right?
Mhm. God, man, what do you think, sir?
Same thing Robert's saying, familiarity, they're part of the group, man. So they're gonna bring him back in again. He's gonna flourish on it. I think he's gonna have another chance at being a head coach. And that, you're not gonna have Patrick Mahomes every time. So kind of the same thing Eric Bieniemy's kind of going through right now. So where he has to not be the Matt Nagy of the past 2-3 years in Chicago, and he has to change to, because that's kind of where the trajectory is kind of going, and the trend is going. Like, hey, here's the same guy who was around Reed and was with him and winning and doing his own thing, and he doesn't have Patrick Mahomes anymore, or Michael Vick, or Donovan McNabb, or, you know what I'm saying? He just so. Like Greg Roberts said, I'm rehashing the same stuff. But
All right. Well, did Ron Rivera hire his replacement? Anyway, we'll keep that in mind, and we'll be right back on the Eye Coaches Podcast talking about quarterbacks in the league.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Folarin Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Eye Coaches Podcast. And in segment 2, we're going to talk about some quarterbacks. And, I know you're not a huge fan, but let's talk about Russell Wilson and whether he was sleepless in Seattle. So, Will, do you believe him? Russell Wilson pushed to have Seahawks coach Pete Carroll fired before his departure, according to media reports. According to the report that I looked at, Wilson asked Seahawks ownership in February 2022 to fire Carroll and general manager John Schneider with the hopes that they would hire Sean Payton to be the coach. And that didn't happen. Not only did Wilson get traded, but when they did play the Seahawks, the Broncos lost to them. So, Will, do you believe him?
I don't believe Russell Wilson. I don't. Unfortunately, you can only been told so many times that you're a cheetah, and people still believing that you're a tiger. You know what I'm saying? People are still like this stuff that's going around. Like, he's just a very talented quarterback who is not really a likable kind of guy. And we've all played with a kind of guy like that who's either talented. I ain't gonna say his name, Coach. You know who it is. Great talent, but just not a very good person, man. Like, just a jerk. So I don't.
Robert, you're going to save me, and you don't even know you're saving me. Russell Wilson was quite disappointing in Denver. So following the trade, the Broncos gave Russell Wilson a 5-year, $245 million extension that included $165 million in guaranteed money. And they were 5-12 and fired the coach Nathaniel Hackett. And now they got Sean Payton. And again, as Will had said on the show, I don't know what this love with Sean Payton is. But now we got to hear about possibly Sean Payton, not letting Russell's entourage in. Robert, any thoughts about this before we move on to Mr. Rodgers?
Well, I'm clearly, if you're letting the entourage in there in the first place, there's a real question about who's running the show. I mean, and the issue is not so much with the public perception, it's the people in the building, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's his teammates and all these guys watching Russ's guys doing whatever it is that they're doing. And I mean, and Will already said, clearly he's not very likable. Dude is dude is odd. He's an odd duck. And that's not helpful to him. And what will be helpful to him, I think, is Sean Payton saying, all these guys you got, running, your 2 p.m. feet massager or whatever the hell, these guys, we're getting them out of the building so that we can focus on what we're supposed to be doing, which is football. I think in the end, that's probably going to help Russ, because that perception of preferential treatment at least is going to be, it's going to be abated somewhat. I mean, it's still going to be there, but it makes it a little bit better, I think.
All right. And speaking of preferential treatment, Aaron Rodgers has emerged from the darkness of the retreat or something. But let's get to getting with Aaron Rodgers. He's 39, guys. He's under contract for $59.4 million guaranteed if he plays in 2023. He's a 4-time MVP, played all 18 years in Green Bay. What are you doing with him? Robert, are we keeping him? Are we trading him? What are we doing with Aaron Rodgers, Robert?
They say he's under contract for a ridiculous amount of money. He's yours. Green Bay stuck with him. They are stuck with him. And there's nothing they can do with that. I mean, maybe they can find a trade partner. I don't know. But $59 million.
That's a lot of money. Will, that's a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. Good luck with that.
What are you doing, Will, with Aaron Rodgers, sir?
The biggest thing for me is, and DK Metcalf plays in the celebrity game and gets tested because he plays well. Aaron Rodgers goes in a cabin in the woods for 2 days and nobody's like, well, I guess he's not doing anything he should be. Why, you know what I'm saying? But on top of that, the Packers are stuck with him. If they can maybe find a way, they're just waiting to eat some BS draft picks or some stuff they can do, or just even if they waive him and they're like, we'll take the bite on our our salary cap, we'll take the bite on that, then it is what it is. But until it is what it is, man, they should. I don't see even why they should stay. I mean, I don't see why they should move away from him. I mean, at the end of the day, you'll have a chance with Aaron Rodgers. It doesn't even matter. He's getting older, but he's still smart enough. He still has the arm strength, so it's not like he's anything like that. But I mean, shoot, at the end of the day, if you end up with him, you still have a chance because you still have Aaron Rodgers, and so that's what I think.
Yeah, hey,
go ahead.
Come on. He wasn't doing. He had incense and meditation. That's all he was doing in a cave, man. Incense and meditation.
He's already talked. He's already admitted that he's done DMT, and we also know that he gives his own vaccines, or you know what I'm saying. So he's very versed with using other medicines outside of the NFL approves.
Well, to end this segment, fellas, Derek Carr is my new favorite quarterback. Derek Carr is on the open market, and you can have Derek Carr for $35 million a year. What a bargain! What a bargain, to quote Eddie Murphy. So again, fans, I'm checking out Derek Carr. You could have him $35 million a year. Kid's 32. He's got another good 5 years left in him. Hey, Jets, forget Aaron Rodgers, get Derek Carr, and get the AFC East. With that, we'll be right back on the Yacht Coaches Podcast. Yes.
There is an old business adage that says, what gets measured and monitored gets done. It is also fact that deadlines spur action. That is what the CKA Save Project's academic monitoring service can do for student athletes. Measure and monitor their academic progress to improve their grades. Our academic monitoring services provide ongoing academic support for student athletes for a designated period of time. Our academic success coaches work with student athletes on time management and organizational skills, along with improving their ability to self-advocate. Every few weeks, our academic success coaches meet with student athletes to assess their academic progress as well as provide ongoing academic advising. If needed, student athletes have access to CKA Learning Specialists who provide virtual core subject academic support for student athletes. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free virtual consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast. In segment 3, the NFL stands for not for long. Bobby Wagner. After one season together, the Los Angeles Rams and Bobby Wagner are separating, with the Rams owing him approximately 13 points, with the Rams being $13.7 million over the salary cap. They're starting to cut. So Wagner's release became official. Rams save $5 million in salary cap space, but they'll also incur a $7.5 million in dead money. So let me tell you about Wagner. He's 32, spent one season with the Rams after signing a 5-year, $50 million deal with $20 million in guarantees. He earned second team All-Pro, posted 140 tackles, a career high 6 sacks, 2 interceptions, 5 passes defended while starting all 17 games. And he was rated the top linebacker in the league. And what have you done for me lately? He's on the market. Jalen Ramsey. Rams are getting rid of him. He's had a successful 3.5-year stint there. Ramsey's due $17 million. Trading him would save money. And again, Ramsey's a 3-time first-team All-Pro cornerback. What are we doing, Will? What are the Rams doing? What's going on? These are players.
I think they're just getting ahead of the inevitable reset. It's coming. You know, you put all your chips into the contracts, the older veterans who can play, and right now they're just like, look, we know the end of the road. We can see it. You know, we won our Super Bowl. You know, we were competitive. You know, relatively, but now it's like we can see the vehicle starting to fall off. So just start shedding off the pounds, shedding off the contracts. They're going to be, you know, they're going to be bad in one of the teams next couple 2 years, but because they're doing this now, they have a better chance to get better earlier because they'll have money. So,
okay. Robert, talk to me.
Same. I mean, Will said it. They went all in. They went all in to win the Super Bowl, pushed all their chips in. They won. And I get the feel. I mean, I still think that aside from a few franchises like Kansas City, I think that you're going to see teams more and more willing to do that, where they're just going to go, they're like, all right, this is our shot. And they're going to put all their chips in. And the next year they're, 6-9 going into week 16. And they start dropping contracts because they've got to cut salary cap. I think that's what a lot of people are going to start doing. I think a lot of people are going to start following that model because, hey, they won one. They won one.
yeah, but
Can't take it away. Can't take it away.
That buys them goodwill from their fans, right?
Yeah.
They
And
got time because, hey, we won one.
And if you're not a blue chip team, if you're like a Tampa or like an LA Ram, you have about 10, 15, 20 years before people start getting itchy for a championship. So it's not like, Dallas or, New England, things like that, where, but they have the time. So I think, I think teams that do it. And to be honest, as a fan, I appreciate that. If we want to win, you're bringing, if you're anything, you're bringing butts on the seats in the stadium, because at the end of the day, I need to see Von Miller instead of so-and-so. I don't know so-and-so. I've never seen him play. But you're trying to win. You're bringing big names. At the end of the day, most people know names. They're like, oh, Von Miller? Oh, you're bringing in this guy? They're trying to win. So it looks good. And at the end of the day, it's the cap casualties that you have to do when you try to run like that, So.
Yeah, you ain't getting butts in the seats to watch 6-round draft picks from BFE State, right?
Exactly.
All right, or whoever that running back is, every week you tell me about from the Texans.
Nobody comes to watch Rex Burkhead.
Rex
man.
Burkhead, there you go.
Nobody.
Rex Burkhead. All right, fans, to close out, the NFL Combine takes place from February 28th to March 6th. All right, the Combine will take place at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, home of the Indianapolis Colts. The event has been held in Indianapolis since 1987. Indianapolis is one of my favorite cities because you can literally go throughout the entire city indoors, and they have great steaks. I've been to St. Elmo's. So good stuff there. And it will be continued to be held there until at least 2024. But they're starting to bid this thing out. So they're going to use that to make some money too. For the first time ever, the Combine was put out for bid. But at the spring meetings, the owner voted to just keep it in Indianapolis for the next couple of years. So you got 319 of college football's top prospects, and they're getting ready for the draft, which will happen in April. And in subsequent weeks, we will divvy up with the OCP who's covering what, and maybe we can even get Merv back. So as we wrap up this episode, Will, any final thoughts before we close, sir?
Oh man, it's going to be a very exciting NFL postseason with all the movements of players. It's going to be fun, and the draft's going to be fun. So
yeah, and fans, last week Mike and I said maybe we should bring Will in for some player props during the season. I don't know because I can't figure that stuff out. Robert, any final words, sir?
I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for all the blooper videos to come out from the Combine. People running the 40 and falling down because their junk came out, or balls bouncing off their foreheads, all that stuff. That's the only part of the Combine I look forward to.
All right. So on behalf of my tag team partner, Mike Francis, as well as the Cotton Man and our favorite admin, Robert Abney, I'm Dr. Keith Adams, saying thank you for listening and or watching the iCoaches podcast, and we will see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The iCoaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills, to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress, to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The iCoaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the iCoaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the iCoaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at iCoaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach FRANCHIZE. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the iCoaches podcast.